Greetings, Tezos Nation. Welcome to another edition of TezTalks Live. I'm Stu from the Tezos Commons. Joining me today is Malicious Sheep, multidisciplinary artist, photographer, vocalist, NFT artist, and self-described community scientist. Malicious Sheep is joining us today to talk about their ongoing journey into the Tezos art ecosystem, their artistic practice, and how blockchain technology is being used as a global force for good here in the Tezos ecosystem. Hi, Malicious Sheep. Where are you right now, and how's the weather?
Hello, hello. I am in rural Canada. It is very chilly with lots of snow, but it is excellent because precipitation is definitely needed to replenish the water table. So I am glad for it.
As we always do here on Tez Talks Live, can you get the ball rolling by telling us a bit about your background in the arts and how you got started on your journey into the exciting world of blockchain technology?
Of course, I am a multidisciplinary artist and also multiply disabled. I am chronically ill, immunocompromised, neurodivergent, and disabled. I always knew myself to be an artist, even as a child, though at that time I did have designs of being a surgeon, wildly. So for a bit of background, always been doing art, many, many mediums. Anything you can imagine, I've probably worked in. I served as a curator in Kensington Market when I lived in Toronto for about a year, before I became incapacitated due to numerous health-related conditions, the main 185 pounds down to 125 pounds in the course of a month, and then went on a wonderfully exhausting medical journey for about a decade. And then, just before, COVID, about a year before COVID, I finally learned, one diagnosis, which was very helpful, that I was immunodeficient. And then, lockdown happened, everybody went online, and I was able to access the world again, and made my way through disability justice circles and then all the way into Tezos, where I am now.
Very cool.
And, yeah, served as a campaign manager for 3 elections, all online, which was amazing, and, also took, full-time care, palliative care of my nan, for 3 years as well, all while trying to organize in Tezos, but yeah.
Okay.
It's only been 7 years in power, so got a lot done in that time. I'm pleased.
Well, it sounds like a lot to take on. Before
Mhm.
we go any further, there are two things I've been looking forward to asking you. The first one being, can you explain your handle? Why Malicious Sheep?
Sure. It was the first CAPTCHA that I filled out as a child to prove that I wasn't a robot. I was often accused of being a robot as a child because I was I like to learn things unlike the other children. Yeah. And at the same time, I was learning about computer-related technology like malicious and sheep software, learning about parables such as a wolf or a tiger in sheep's clothing, and how those stories of othering and monstrifying the foreign are used to manipulate systems, leading to concentrations of power. So I felt like it resonated really well. It encapsulated a lot of my realities as someone who sits on the edge of the bell curve. Um, and I love the collisions and intersections that occur with my brain with that name. And so I adopted that moniker. It's really fun to see how people respond to it. Sometimes laughter, confusion, concern. And I know everybody's imagining something different and unique to them. So it's always great. And now instead of being called a robot, I'm usually called AI, which I could take as a compliment, I think. But yeah.
Well,
Mhm.
we'll proceed. We'll assume that you're not an AI, and we'll continue. Um,
This is good.
my second question is, what exactly is a community scientist?
Yeah, sure. Community scientist is a role related to ecosystem maintenance. It's also known as citizen scientist. Um, Community scientists observe, monitor, maintain, and adjust local environments to benefit the occupants of that space, be it flora, fungi, fauna, the broader ecosystem as a whole. It often takes the form of native and invasive species awareness and action. I spent most of my life before I got sick climbing around mountains and forests and meadows, species, observing their interactions and needs, studying systems, monitoring, combating invasives, ecosystem. And I now apply this methodology and care within my community organizing effort, disability justice, and within Tezos, which takes stock of all participants to enable and sustainable growth in the ecosystem.
Okay, well, thank you for clearing that up. What was it about blockchain that first piqued your interest as an artist?
I learned about blockchain over a decade ago. I wrongly assumed I would need a master's in both finance and software engineering to understand it, so I kinda, like, set that to the side, looked at it from a distance, and I am kind of annoyed that I did that because I feel like I would have been all up in it for from the beginning. Um, it feels like the perfect structural blend to allow for creative expression and artist autonomy, and it combines all of my loves in one happy place. So, yeah.
Okay, and speaking of combining all of your loves in one happy place, what was it about the sort of intersection between art and blockchain technology that inspired you to get involved with NFTs and blockchain powered art?
Most of the core creative industries, most industries are structured in such a way that autonomy is often the last consideration, if at all. I investigated art, music, performance industries, to try and find a path for myself as a creative. And I found each time a predatory system, which is very much incompatible with me. In comparison, the capacity blockchain has for self-directed transactions, contracts, collaboration, and expression, it all just provides an excellent environment for the maintenance of autonomy. Um, it, of course, comes with its own challenges, but it's incredibly dynamic and creates room for sustainable growth that is resistant to predatory structural pitfalls. Peer to peer creative exchange is so important, and it's really accelerated a lot of what the arts community globally has been able to develop even just in 5 years.
Mm,
It's all created from scratch. This gives room for possibilities otherwise hindered by traditional spaces, which have structures that prioritize preservation over innovation. They would much rather um, adopt something after it's been proven as successful and already culturally adopted by the broader public before they will adopt it within their own structure. Having had to deal with many institutions in many layers of my life, uh, yes, this is this is how it is, but I believe that a space, like where we are within blockchain, really does allow for that growth to happen, um, and, adaptation as well.
okay. And within that journey, how were you first introduced to the Tezos ecosystem?
Oh, Tezos. I was introduced by Mumu, for folks who remember Mumu the Stan. She is absolutely fabulous, and we met in a shared music community, back in 2021, and in September, she introduced me to the idea of Tezos, and I spent a month researching because I was like, "I have no idea if I'm going to be able to do this. I
Mm,
need to understand how everything works." So I did take that month, and then I felt confident, and then on October 11th of 2021, I minted my first piece, and then just a month later, Hen was discontinued,
hmm.
and then the journey begins as a community organizer, but yes.
Okay, and as you were doing that research and learning about the Tezos ecosystem, what was it about this blockchain ecosystem in particular that appealed to you and made you decide to get involved?
Oh, yes. A few things. The environmental impact as an environmental justice advocate, that was important to me. The functional governance structure, I have experienced, um, some of the most, obtrusive and incompatible and non-functional governance systems within my work in different types of circles, particularly in disability justice, and politics interface. Um, what I saw in Tezos, I was like, "Oh, excellent. This is perfect." Everybody working together collaboratively, it's excellent. Um, and also the diversity and quality of global contributors, that I felt was really important. I didn't, um, want to necessarily be in a space that was focused solely on one type of participant, and I feel like Tezos in particular has that global reach. Um, there were also peers, within the space who, I was bringing up accessibility concerns early on, and immediately the response was, "Okay, how do we fix this?" It was
Mm.
very collaborative, it was very, um, intentional about providing the needs for the community in a really beautiful way that I had yet to experience, so that was wonderful. Um, being able to solve for gaps in real time within the ecosystem. It's such a beautiful thing.
Okay. And now here you are. You've since gone on to mint hundreds of works here on Tezos, and you've become something of a fixture here in the Tezos art ecosystem. Can you talk a bit more about your journey and what you've experienced as a blockchain and Tezos artist?
Sure. Um, for me, I didn't have access to art community until Tezos, aside from that short stint as a curator,
Mm.
either through physical barriers of inaccessibility or social barriers such as ableism, similar prejudices. I could not safely attend art spaces in my area, even if I were to travel. But within Tezos, I was able to share and sell my work for the first time. I have been an artist my entire life. I've been creating in the quiet, just lurking,
Mm.
working on things. But this was the first time I was able to actually sell my work and share with peers and investigate all of the layers of one another's art. And finding peership was really refreshing, for me, for my practice, from that isolated and self-directed state to one where I was in real time, with my fellow artists. And now I connect with thousands of creatives. I have met and participated in incredible communities like the Burritos, where I found my family, the Jam, where I found my voice, and Taya, where I found my peers. And I get to enable people, get to make up for what I wasn't able to experience.
Mm.
I wasn't enabled often, so I had to create that for myself. And now I know how to do that, so I do it for others.
Well, that sounds incredibly significant for someone like you. If you've been creating and you've been an artist and you've been doing this, um, to encounter a space where you're able to share, market, sell your art, and interact with communities that you couldn't interact with before, that must have been a profound change for you.
Absolutely. I spent so much time being in isolation due to my full body incapacitation and was ready to reemerge into the world. And then COVID happened, but immunodeficient Mal is not allowed to go outside. So the internet is where it's at.
Okay. And as we both mentioned, you are a multidisciplinary artist working with many mediums from photography to poetry to vocal expression. Can you tell us a bit about your practice as an artist working in all of those realms today?
Absolutely. As I mentioned before, I've worked in pretty much every medium you could possibly imagine, including metal work, fiber, sculpture, film, performance, painting, drawing, etc. Photography, poetry, and vocals are the most accessible mediums for me at this time. Um, it allows me to capture, uh, create, and communicate in real time, in quick succession. Poetry especially has unlocked something for me that wasn't available to me, where am able now to fold and weave dozens of themes and topics simultaneously and fairly instantly. I only began writing poetry 3 years ago, but I have written well over 300 poems in that time, and have since had 2 quantum poetry pieces accepted into the Citserio collection, which, I would be happy to share, at the end, as we wind down, if there's time, of course. But folks can also catch that on, Spaces, as I host some spaces, and on my Twitch too, um, if they're interested in the poetry part. I also, like with the photography, it's often paired with a poem. I photograph textures and palettes that reflect my experience of my symptoms and socioeconomic issues and much more. Um, I used photography as a motivating medium to rebuild my body after a decade of being incapacitated. I went out for 15 minutes, uh, sat down on the ground after I ran out of steam, would go back inside and research everything that I had photographed and continued that until I was able to functionally move around again. Um, but yeah, next up is music and voice acting, which I'm very excited about. I've had a couple opportunities for that already.
Cool.
And I I'm excited to be able to arrange music and explore vocal textures and moods to communicate what other mediums have yet to adequately satisfy for me. So I'm looking forward to that too.
Okay. And as a artist who, as you say, has worked in every medium I can imagine, how would you
Mhm.
describe blockchain as an artistic medium and the part it plays in your work today?
Hmm. Well, for much of my work, it's I don't utilize the blockchain, the tech itself as a medium. I use it more as something akin to a gallery space. Lies beneficiary and collaborative contracts. Um, like that would be the element that I'm currently incorporating, though I do wish to expand that. But there have been some really incredible pieces that I've seen throughout the ecosystem over the years where the tech itself is used as a medium, where interoperable layers are part of the piece, index dynamic pieces, which are updated in real time to associate with, like, say, um, the current activity on the chain or the price of Tezos or whatever it happens to be. Other elements as well. Um, and I find it very inspiring, and it does nudge me to think deeper as to how I might creatively employ this tech in my work, in future. Learning how to code, so we'll see where we get to.
Well, for those who might be curious and want to have a look at your work, where's the best place for them to find it?
It is at teia.art, TEIA dot art /malicious sheep. And you will find the majority of things there. There are a few projects that I minted on Object. Um, Again, object.com. Search for me at Malicious Sheep on there. And you should be able to find all of my lovely things. Mhm.
Okay. And speaking of Taya, I understand you're now working closely with Taya as a community organizer. Can you talk a bit about what exactly you do in that role?
Yes, I have been in this role since Hen was discontinued. I showed up during that whole busy time with my skills as a community organizer within disability justice circles and said, "What can I do?" And I was given some tasks. I completed those tasks, and then I was given more. And now I wear almost every single hat aside from development. in Taya. So I um, spend a lot of time um, observing and acting folks. This is a community science that comes in. Um, Observing and connecting folks for tasks that need to be completed. I provide updates for everyone. I was working on the Taya blog. I host spaces. I educate and troubleshoot. I, am coordinating the team itself for speaking engagements, events. I host fundraising initiatives and just all of the things. If you can, I'm I'm all over the place. I'm in over 100 discords. I'm lurking in like 80 group chats on Twitter. Like there's so many things. So yeah, I do probably too much, but it's where we
Okay.
are, and I'm enjoying it. So that's what I'm going to keep doing.
Okay. And as somebody who's doing too much with Taya, how would you describe Taya and its sort of place in the Tezos art ecosystem?
hmm Um, so Taya, for anybody who is unaware, is a nonprofit DAO LLC art marketplace, which is volunteer powered and community owned. We were officially registered in 2023 as the nonprofit DAO LLC, which was very exciting. It took us a few years, but we got there. Wanted to do our research, but we are registered. The multi-sig itself is the owner of the DAO uh, as it's registered. So we did our research so we could make it as decentralized as we possibly could. Taya is a wonderful place, art marketplace. Has a 2.5% fee, 2 GB file size, multiple file types, collaborative contracts. I am having trouble keeping up with the updates now. Um, so I've got to make more resources for folks with all of these new changes. We've got a blog which is in beta testing right now, like a blog interface, which is very exciting. Just so many things. It's been developed and maintained by a core team who themselves are creatives, which has led us into an artist first focus for our lovely little marketplace. There are 19 multi stakeholders. I'm the unofficial 20th, with representatives from all over the world. We have lots planned to introduce to the community this year, so stay tuned. We're working on new UI updates, more accessibility upgrades, trying to make it a smoother process for everyone, and um, providing new tools for our lovely community. If anybody wants to get involved, you can reach out to me. Taya is volunteer powered. Back in 2021, we had about 200 folks who I was managing all at the same time. We are smaller in number now, obviously, as it's the winter, but we are starting to pick up steam again. So if you want to join in on the fun, you are certainly invited to. Just let me know, and I will connect you with the guild within Taya that you may find most enjoyable. Mhm.
Okay. And when we talk about joining the fun, as you say, in the Tezos art community, as somebody who's sort of an organizer within the community and a community scientist at the same time, what can you tell us about the Tezos art community of 2026?
Mm. Well, Tezos, our community, the 2026, we're only a couple months in, but I'm already starting to see um, many familiar faces return, which is very exciting. Folks who have taken a long hibernation. And we're also seeing many new faces excited and just learning and discovering about Tezos as an ecosystem and its potential. Um, I do feel like there is energy which is coming in. Um, and a lot of folks who have been disillusioned by systems outside of blockchain, these very centralized hierarchical systems, finding something in Tezos and particularly in Tea that is different and appeals to a need that they have intrinsically. And so I'm very excited to see takes off. There obviously has been some advancement into the L2 side of things with Etherlink. Um, and I am excited to see some focus return back to L1 and the support for the community there, because that's where a lot of the passion is.
Mm.
And you're going to invite people from outside of the ecosystem who do not have the same dialect as all of us who have been here for 5 years without passion. There needs to be something that ignites that energy within those folks that we're trying to draw in. And we're trying to draw in folks who we haven't already reached and who are not interested. We need to be reaching out to new folks. And I'm very excited about this. I will be soon introducing a art disabled artist community to concept of Tea and blockchain next month. So I'm excited for that. Um, and yeah, I think overall the ecosystem is percolating in a very beautiful way, and I'm excited for it.
Okay, and you mentioned people coming to this ecosystem and finding something quote unquote different. I'm wondering
Mhm.
if you can expand on that a little bit. Like, what sets the Tezos art community apart from other art communities in the sort of larger blockchain ecosystem?
Mhm. Tezos is like the perfect blend of punk and academia. Academic minds who are willing and able to push against structures and systems that already exist to create something more adaptable and inclusive and just cool, honestly. We have so many mediums that are expressed within the ecosystem. Um, there's performance, there's fiber work, there's code-based interactives, there's, traditional artwork and digital. It runs the whole gambit, and I feel like the community itself, when people come here, they can recognize it. It feels like home. It feels like actual community where one another is actively interested in the well-being of the other. Um, of course, there's, you know, as with any conflicts or, debates about certain topics or approaches to things, but overall, um, it is collaborative and um, mutual in efforts of trying to support one another and provide benefit to the ecosystem overall. Um, we watch out for one another whenever there's a new scammer in town. It doesn't take long for the community to reflexively be like, "Hey, I have a question for you."
Yeah.
And it's wonderful to see because that is um, it's a great indicator that it is in a very healthy state, and I'm glad for that.
An
Mhm.
indicator of health, as you say.
Mhm.
This is all great stuff so far. I'm excited to learn more, but before we dive into the nitty-gritty, are you ready for the world famous Tez Talks lightning round?
Absolutely. Yes, I am.
Okay, that's great. Then it's lightning round time. Remember, there are no wrong answers. This is just for fun so reviewers can get to know you a little bit better. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Are you a night owl or an early riser?
I am a night owl. The sun is very loud. The air is cool at night. It allows my body and brain to work more effectively. Oh, it's perfect. I love it. And the moon's there,
Exercise or
right?
naps?
Both, though exercise
Oh,
is intentional and naps are often compulsory.
fair. Movies or video games?
Video games. Why be a passive observer when you could be an active one?
You can
It's
be part
it's
of the
just as
movie.
cinematic, but puzzles and story have to be worked for, and I like that.
Beautiful. What's your favorite country to visit for a vacation?
I have never traveled to another country for vacation. I don't think I ever will. Again, permanent quarantine, but I would like to, perhaps go across Canada in an RV with a loved one, perhaps. Much better than trying to get on an airplane in a hazmat suit and being tackled by TSA.
All right. If you were elected emperor of the world, what's the first thing you would do?
I would refuse and abolish the rule. That is what I would
Okay,
do.
great answer. Name one thing you will never do again.
Doubt my intuition.
Very good answer. What is the secret to happiness?
Active and intentional grief work. Grieving is needed for so much, not just in the processing of death.
Okay. Do you have any pets?
No, I used to, and I love pets, but I'm immunodeficient, so not safe to have any anymore. So instead, I make friends with the wild. I have a little banditry of
All right.
chickadees that are my friends.
There you go. And finally, what is your favorite thing to do on a rainy day?
Waterproof my explore the forest, looking for bugs and mushrooms and plants and textures, so I can go photograph.
Another great answer. Thank you. Those are all excellent answers. This concludes the Tez Talks lightning round. Let's get back into it.
Mhm.
Now that we've talked about your background and your journey down the sort of Tezos art rabbit hole, I'd like to zoom out a bit and talk about a bit about the state of the Tezos powered art and its place in the larger blockchain ecosystem of 2026. First off, what is the current state of Tezos art in 2026 as you see it? Like, where is this ecosystem at in its journey?
Mm. Mhm. I I feel like it's at a recalibration point. Um, Basic structural foundations have been laid, and time has passed where success and failure has taken place, and cultural traditions and dialects have formed. Cross pollination between art, development, DeFi, and collecting has occurred, and interdependent communication, collaboration, and action is beginning to take hold. We now share a language, finally. um, it's at a point where present and self aware reflection is needed. Any injuries that have occurred must be repaired, and the community needs nourishment and care in anticipation of the spring, which is coming. There is a lot of work to do, but if we're not learning from the lessons that we have received thus far and correct for harms, the health of every component of the ecosystem is at risk of decay. Those who have remained active throughout the winter and hibernation cycle have been quietly building their roots, and as I mentioned before, this is where passion lives, and it's nurture what growth has organically developed over the years, with renewed and dedicated support so that the ecosystem can thrive. And that's where I think we're at.
Okay. Now, there is something I wanted to ask you as somebody who seems to be a very independent thinker. Like, in my role, I've spoken to a lot of people about the sort of ongoing effort to bring blockchain art into the traditional art world and help it sort of gain acceptance as a legitimate artistic space. And I'm curious, do you see that personally as like a worthwhile endeavor, or is the traditional art world sort of somewhat irrelevant to what's going on in this space right now?
Mm, I think I have a lot of thoughts. I do
I
love
thought you
this
might.
question. Yes. In traditional spaces, there's not much room for innovation. They are designed to preserve. Unfortunately, this means that adaptation and accessibility are often years later than they could be, which excludes swaths of the population that could otherwise participate. And this is a similar case as to why we're not getting that traction within trad spaces for blockchain stuff. The goal of traditional spaces is to maintain the through line of cultural truth and will only absorb layers outside of that from external cultural pressure in order to self-preserve and remain relevant. It is not through any sort of valuing of the thing itself. It is that they will lose their own credibility
Mm.
without valuing it, right? Um, if we imagine both the blockchain space and traditional art spaces and other spaces as biomes. Within a broader ecosystem, they exchange with other biomes, practices, knowledge, and systems. They all integrate and influence one another, but they have their own forms, their own systems. It's not as though one is better than the other. They each serve their own function and each can support their own unique communities. Blockchain, however, can connect other biomes outside of art into itself and then in turn bring that into the biome of trad art. It is able to connect those biomes and also blend the borders and enmesh the ecosystem. It is also beginning to form its own unique biome as well, which is exciting to see happen in real time. But I do believe that it will not come easily to have traditional art spaces accept what we're doing here, but it will happen. It needs to if they want to remain relevant, because we are in the Internet of Things.
Mm.
It is critical for them to begin adapting as part of their cultural through line. We cannot only stay as physical forever. And we're starting to see some movement in that direction. Some institutions have, taken the leap. LACMA, for example, comes to mind. But yeah, it will take time, but it will happen. It will.
Okay, and you're essentially talking about this space sort of reaching a critical mass point so that it sort of forces the hand of the trad art world where this is where the art is now, this is how people are consuming it, and therefore you must absorb it in order to stay relevant, as you said. If we put that
Mhm.
aside and you're making a case for this to happen now, why is blockchain art important? Like, what do you think this technology has to offer to the world of art and the artists within it that the traditional art world should take into consideration now?
Mhm. Provenance is a big one. Um, It is something that has always been a challenge within a traditional space. There are experts who have to track down the details and make assumptions and give their best guess with a lot of
Yeah.
pieces. But with a public ledger, it is perfectly visible and trackable. There's self-directed creation and direct communication with collectors, which is not the standard within the traditional art world. There are many middlemen, and yes, that is its own industry.
Mm.
Within like galleries and curations and tastemakers and all of these things, they will still have a role, but it will not be as um, barriered between the artist and the collector within this space. The provenance, of course, as I was mentioning before, and the other elements too, it's so important for record keeping and again, maintaining autonomy which allows for stronger bonds to form between peers and collectors. There's not the separation that's occurring. The capacity for collaboration and automated payouts to collaborators and beneficiaries through smart contract allows for so much creative potential. Like no other time in history, aside from if you shared geography, you had a better chance, where artists could so actively collaborate, not just like by medium, because you could go cross medium as well. But we are a global art community. So
Mm.
artists from Brazil can collaborate with an artist from Hong Kong. An artist who only works in fiber can collaborate with an artist who only does code-based work. Like, never has there been a time where that kind of information exchange has been happening in real time and so easily. Primary market sales as well are really great, but secondary is also wonderful, and royalties are something that the art market is not as familiar with, but, film and music, those industries do have that inbuilt. But again, predatory middlemen often, um, where artists are able to continue to um, receive funds from secondary sales and sustain long term their practice, which I think is very important. Um, and for anybody's, you know, information, Taya has pledged to honor royalties indefinitely, as we are artists first and run by artists, so we understand this impact very personally.
Yeah.
um, and other marketplaces within Tezos have also pledged to honor that as well. So this is something I love about Tezos.
Yeah.
But yes.
And I think there's a lot more conversation to be had in that area, but there is one other sort of track that I wanted to go down with you before we run out of time here. Because in
Mhm.
addition to its promise for art and artists, blockchain has also become an important space for fundraising and support for charitable causes across the globe, which I know it's something that you personally hold very near and dear to your heart. So can you talk a bit about what makes blockchain such an appealing option for doing good in the world?
Mhm. Mm, I feel like um, it has an excellent and unique interface for fundraising. Um, Mutual aid initiatives, especially. There is, as I mentioned before, global reach. There's anonymity of donor and participant. It's a public ledger, again, um, and instantaneous access to funds. Um, those would be some examples I would reference. This allows for spontaneous and energetic action, often lost in traditional fundraising settings because it takes so long to prepare and connect and communicate and do all of the different labors that are involved with fundraising. And by that time, usually the steam and the energy of that has run out. People are not as excited or driven to participate in
It
fundraising.
happens very quickly these
Um,
days.
yes, and it happens so quickly. And so being able to spring up in real time an initiative and being able to connect again in real time with those directly affected
Mhm.
and looking into how to provide meaningful financial and social support um, through the technology. There are so many ways that it really does provide a beautiful benefit, regardless of the scale.
Yeah. And you spoke a lot about middlemen in the art space. I think the charity sort of industry has a similar problem, right?
Hmm. Yes, it does.
Now, as far as fundraising goes, can you tell us a little bit about the Kind Crew?
Yeah, so the Kind Crew is a collective of chronically ill, immunocompromised, neurodivergent, and disabled creatives within the Tezos ecosystem. Um, I founded this collective to enable peer support, kinship, and mutual aid for those in the ecosystem who have barriers to active participation and who are able to connect through their shared experience. We all share the experience of our conditions and symptoms, which interrupts our daily lives, but also our art practice. We are often punished by the algorithm because we have to take some time off. We're not posting every day. So we seek support from one another to provide algorithmic boosts for one another when we don't have capacity to do so. It's a wonderful place to share together. And I founded that like a year or two ago now, I think.
Very cool.
And we've done some small scale fundraising, mutual aid efforts within that group. But then, of course, broader, there have been some larger fundraisers that we've been able to within the community. Me and fellow fundraising organizers have been able to set up and get going. So, yeah.
Okay. And what's next for Malicious Sheep? Do you have any exciting projects or announcements in the works?
Sure. Well, wanted quickly give a shout out to a project which is about to finalize its submissions. I don't know when this. It's going to be on Sunday is when that closes, but it's a Voices of Iran project, which is connecting artists' words, Iranian artists' words, with volunteer artists within the broader community to create a collaborative zine or zine, as you say. And so that's very exciting. So check that out as it comes along. But I will be working on video game streaming. I
Interesting.
am working on books. I'm doing voice acting and music and poetry, my main mediums of focus currently. Um, I am also opening up space for consulting and advisory services for a variety of subjects, including accessibility, education, death and disability doulaship, community analysis and strategy, to just name a few of the threads in the weave. I have been working on some collaborations behind the scenes, learning how to code, and plotting my dream to build and run an accessible and quarantined artist and science residency, mostly so I can be in presence with others again, but also to facilitate wonderful cross pollination between industries. I think it would be beautiful. Um, if anybody wants to check me out on socials, I'm at Malicious Sheep 56 on X, and you can follow me on Twitch if you're interested in watching me do retro game streams with SNES and N64. Because that's all my terrible internet will allow for currently. Eventually, we will get into better streams, but it's been fun and nostalgic. But if you want to follow me on there, you can go to Malicious Sheep 56 on Twitch, and I would love to see you there. I host spaces at least once a week with with Tezos Tea Tuesday, which is a news space, and then some monthly spaces, um, including karaoke night and poetry spaces, mental health spaces, all of the good things. You can check that out on my X account and my pinned tweet for more information about that. Um, yeah, the last 5 years in this beautiful ecosystem has been a whirlwind of soul nourishment, and I look forward to how I will expand and what facets of myself I will grow and share.
Very cool.
And yeah.
Well, I don't think you're alone in feeling like we've all been through the whirlwind who are in this space, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we could go on all day. I have many questions that we didn't manage to get to, but unfortunately, we're coming to the end of our time here. To all our viewers, thanks for watching. If you'd like to get in touch with us, our social media contacts can be found at tezoscommons.org/TezTalks. We'd love to hear from you. Mal, thanks so much for joining us today. It's always awesome to speak to the folks who've found an artistic home here in the Tezos ecosystem. Is there anything else that you wanted to mention before we sign off?
Mm, it's time to innovate, cultivate, and create what we want to see. And I appreciate you for inviting me to join you today. And I've had a wonderful time. These questions have been very stimulating, and now I'm energized and have to do some more tasks. So I'm excited for it. I
Well,
appreciate you.
that's good to hear. It was our pleasure. To everyone out there in Tezos land, thanks for joining us on TezTalks Live. I'm Stu from the Tezos Commons, and our awesome guest has been Malicious Sheep. Now let's go help Tezos be a global force for good.